Hello, friends. I need you to pause for a moment and truly listen, because what you're about to hear is not ordinary. In recent months, we've received many stories, people who say they've crossed the threshold of life and returned with messages that shook them to their core. But this testimony is different. It's urgent, it's clear, and it may carry a message meant specifically for you. This isn't just a tale to entertain or inspire. It's a call to awaken. I'm asking you to stay focused, to stay with us until the very end. Don't scroll, don't look away. The insights shared in this story could change how you see your life, your choices, and your faith. Before we begin, take a moment to share where you're watching from in the comments and write down any prayer requests you have. We want to lift them up with you. And if you have experienced something similar or have a testimony you'd like to share, you can also email us. Your story could be shared here to inspire and encourage others. Now let us enter the experience of Dr. Mary Neal, a surgeon who faced death, glimpsed eternity, and returned with a life-changing message of love, hope, and purpose. I will read it out now. I'm Dr. Mary Neal. I'm an orthopedic spine surgeon, someone who spends her life looking at facts, x-rays, and bones. I train to fix what is broken, to repair, to heal. I never thought I would experience something that no surgeon could fix, something that existed beyond this world. My husband and I loved adventure. Kayaking had been part of our life for decades. It was familiar, exciting, challenging, but safe, or so I thought. One day we set out on a river, the water rushing between steep walls, the wind carrying mist and spray. Everything seemed normal at first, but then my kayak flipped and was pinned beneath a waterfall. I felt the water pressing down, my body held tightly in its grip, unable to move. Panic tried to rise in me, but I knew I couldn't fight it. I couldn't breathe. Every instinct screamed survival, but something deeper told me to let go and surrender, and so I did. When I surrendered, the strangest thing happened. I became aware of my body from a distance. I was floating above the river, watching the paramedics and rescuers scramble on the bank, hearing the urgency in their voices, seeing the panic on my husband's face. I could see everything, but I felt no fear, no pain. In fact, I felt a peace I had never known. My body was held, yet I was free. And then slowly I began moving away from that scene, through a darkness that felt alive. In that darkness, I could feel a presence that was indescribable. It wasn't something I had ever experienced in church or meditation. It wasn't a feeling of relief or happiness. It was a presence that contained love, authority, and perfection all at once. I was moving through it, pulled by something I couldn't resist, yet not afraid. It was like falling into the warmth of the sun while still knowing the weight of the earth. Then the light appeared. It was overwhelming, pure, and I knew immediately that this was the presence of God. I wanted to look closer, to step into it, but a voice told me I was not ready. And in that moment I understood that this was more than a glimpse of the afterlife. It was a place where eternity meets reality. I met beings, people I had loved before, and they welcomed me. I sensed no judgment, no fear, only a love that was limitless and constant. I also sensed that I had a choice. I could remain, could stay in that perfect place where sorrow and pain did not exist. But I heard another voice, gentle yet commanding, telling me that my time was not yet, that I had work to do, that I had to return to the world I had left behind. I felt a pull not from obligation, but from purpose. I understood that I was being sent back not to die, but to live differently. When I returned to my body, I remember the shock of awareness, the feel of broken bones, bruises, and the hospital ceiling above me. I could see the concern in my rescuer's eyes, hear the rapid chatter of medical staff, But I also felt a new clarity. I had seen beyond death, and I had returned with a message that could not be ignored. Life, I realized, was far more precious than I had understood. Faith was not a concept, it was the only real foundation I had, the only thing that mattered when everything else faded away. From that moment, I knew I could not return to living for myself alone. I had to live with purpose, to carry what I had seen and felt, to share the message of love, mercy, and the reality of eternity. My work as a surgeon became secondary to my work as a witness. Every day, every encounter, became an opportunity to reflect what I had been shown. I began to pray more intentionally, to speak more openly, and to help others see that life was fleeting, but God's love was eternal. Even now, when I close my eyes, I can feel the warmth, the presence, the peace of that place. It calls me to live differently, to love without limit, to witness without fear, and to remind those around me that eternity is real and waiting. And so I speak because I know I cannot be silent. After I returned, everything felt different. The world looked the same on the outside, but I was not the same on the inside. Even simple things, the sunlight through the trees, the hum of the hospital machines, the ordinary conversations of people around me, carried a new weight. I understood, in a way I never had before, that life is fragile and that every moment matters. I tried to sleep that first night at home, but I could not. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt the presence I had left behind calling to me. It was not frightening, it was urgent. I knew that I had been given a gift, and with it came responsibility. I began to think about the people in my life, the ones I loved and the ones I had ignored, the ones I had judged, the ones I had failed to forgive. I realized that I had taken far too much for granted. I had been so focused on work, on achievement, on appearances, that I had overlooked the heart of life itself, the love of God, the call to serve, the fleeting nature of time. As I moved through those first days, I started telling small parts of what I had experienced to my family. I told my husband how I had been held, how I had felt nothing but love, how I had seen a place beyond understanding, a place where there is no pain, no fear, only peace. I told them about the beings I met, the feeling of eternity, and the voice that had called me back. Some listened with awe, some struggled to believe me, some laughed gently, thinking perhaps I was still shaken from the trauma. But I knew what I had seen was real. I could not unsee it. I could not unknow it. Then I began to speak to others, colleagues, friends, patients, anyone who would listen. I shared what I could without sounding strange, and yet I could not omit the urgency. I told them life is a gift and it can end in an instant. I told them that faith is not just a concept. It is the foundation of everything that matters. I told them that love is stronger than fear, and that eternity is waiting. In every conversation, I tried to convey the peace I had felt, but also the responsibility. There was work to be done. There was life to live differently. I began to notice the world around me in ways I had never noticed before. The news, which I once read with detachment, now struck me with clarity. I could see the moral and spiritual struggles unfolding, the conflicts and divisions, the ways people were chasing comfort and convenience over truth and mercy. I saw the signs of a world leaning away from God. Yet I also saw individuals, small groups quietly faithful, shining in the darkness. I understood that God's love is patient, that He is calling people back, and that every act of prayer, every act of kindness, every moment of faith matters. I also began to understand my own life differently. I had been a healer in the physical world, but now I knew I had to be a healer in the spiritual sense as well. I prayed more intentionally. I listened more attentively. I tried to respond to every opportunity to encourage, to teach, to share hope. I no longer wanted to waste time on trivial concerns. I could feel the urgency of God's call every day. It was not a threat. It was love urging me to act, to live purposefully, to witness boldly, and to walk faithfully. Sometimes when I am quiet, I still feel the pull of that other place. I close my eyes, and I can feel the light, the peace, the presence of God surrounding me. It is a reminder that life is temporary, that our choices matter, and that every soul is precious. It is also a reminder that even when we fail, when we fall, when we stumble, God's love is greater than our mistakes. And so I live differently now. I speak differently. I see differently. I love differently. I am no longer the same person I was before I left my body. The experience did not just change my understanding of death. It changed the way I approach life. Every day I strive to reflect the love I felt, to share the message I was entrusted with, and to remind those around me that there is hope, that there is mercy, and that eternity is real. I tell my story because I cannot be silent. I tell it because others may need to hear it. I tell it because I know that God's love is reaching for them, even if they do not yet know it. And I pray that every person who hears it will feel that presence, that urgency, and that call to live a life full of faith, hope, and love. Even after I returned home, I felt the weight of what I had experienced pressing on me every single day. Life went on as it always does, but I could no longer see it the same way. I noticed details I had once ignored, the way the sunlight touched a leaf, the sound of children laughing, the quiet moments between loved ones. Every ordinary moment suddenly felt sacred. I realized that life itself is a gift, far more precious than I had ever understood, and that we are given every breath to live intentionally. I began to see my work, my family, and my relationships through new eyes. I had been a healer in the physical sense, repairing bones and treating pain, but now I understood that the greater work was in the heart and soul. I started to look for opportunities to encourage others, to speak words of hope, to share the message I had been entrusted with. Every interaction became a chance to reflect the love I had experienced, the mercy that had held me, and the clarity I had received from beyond. I also became more aware of the world around me. I watched news reports with a different understanding. I noticed the fear, the division, the longing for safety and comfort, and I realized how many people are searching for hope without even knowing it. I could sense the spiritual battles taking place, the tug of war between darkness and light, and I felt the urgency to act, to speak, to pray. It was as if God's voice was calling through every circumstance, reminding me that our choices matter more than we can imagine. Sometimes in quiet moments I could still feel the pull of that other place. I would close my eyes and remember the light, the peace, the overwhelming love that had surrounded me. It was not frightening or heavy. It was the most real thing I had ever experienced. I felt a calling, a responsibility to live differently, to serve with purpose, to love without hesitation, and to share what I had learned with as many people as possible. I realized that survival was not the end. It was only the beginning of a new life, a life meant to reflect the glory and mercy of God. I began to share my story widely. I spoke to family, friends, colleagues, and even strangers because I knew that the experience I had was not mine alone. I wanted others to understand that there is a reality beyond this world, that God is real, and that life is far more than the ordinary routines we cling to. Some believed immediately, some doubted, some laughed. It didn't matter. I knew that speaking the truth was not about convincing others, but about planting seeds that could grow in their own time. And I learned that the message was simple: love God, love others, live intentionally. I didn't need to embellish my experience. I didn't need to explain every detail. The power of it lay in the reality I had encountered, in the transformation I had undergone, and in the urgency of the call I had received. I felt a responsibility to be a witness to God's mercy, to remind people that our lives are fleeting, that eternity is real, and that every moment matters. I also realized that my own life could never return to the same patterns. I could not allow fear, pride, or distraction to dominate me. I prayed more intentionally, I listened more carefully. I sought to live in alignment with God's will. I began to notice small signs of His presence everywhere, through people, through nature, through moments that would have previously seemed insignificant. Every day became a chance to respond to the calling I had been given, to reflect the love that had been poured into me, and to live a life that could inspire others to seek the same truth. As time went on, I felt an even stronger sense of urgency. I understood that the world is moving quickly, that opportunities to live faithfully are limited, and that God's call is patient but persistent. I thought of the people I knew, the ones I loved, and even those I had never met. I prayed for them, for their protection, for their understanding, and for their hearts to be open to the truth that transcends this world. I knew that what I had seen was not meant to terrify, but to awaken, to inspire action, reflection, and devotion. If you are listening to this story now, I want you to know that you are not here by accident. You are here because your heart is open, because God is reaching to you in this moment, and because you have the chance to respond. Life is precious. Faith is real. Eternity is closer than we realize. The experience I had was a glimpse into that reality, a reminder that love and mercy are eternal, and that God is calling each of us to live with purpose, to love without reservation, and to be witnesses of His truth. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening. You could have turned away, but you chose to stay. That means your heart is open. And I pray that the words you've heard tonight will encourage, inspire, and move you to live intentionally. If you feel called to pray, to surrender, or to seek God, don't wait. Life is a gift and every moment matters. Please, let us know where you're watching from in the comments and share any prayer requests. We will stand in agreement with you, lifting your needs before the Lord, and I encourage you to share this story with others. Someone else may need to hear it tonight just as you have. Remember, God's love is real. Heaven is real. And the calling to live faithfully with purpose and devotion is urgent. Thank you for listening until the very end. May your life be touched, your faith strengthened, and your heart opened to the eternal truth that God is merciful, His presence is near, and His love endures forever.